Hey, you guys, welcome to the Lab Girl Circle Tech Talk season finale. It is me, the Lab Girl. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining me live for my season finale of Tech Talk. Um, I really can't wait to get into the show. I'm super excited about today's show. But before we get into the show, I just want to say thank you guys for joining me today and ending my show with me, season one with a bang. I just want to reflect a little bit and tell you guys thank you so much for being a part of the Lab Growth Circle. And the reason why I created my show Tech Talk is so you guys can be heard, and you guys actually made that possible. I wanted to know what was your experience like when you were studying, what were the obstacles you faced, what was your experience in school, how did you hear about histology, and I wanted to interview histotechs, lab techs, students, other lab professionals, and to get their perspective on being in the histology field. And this is the reason why I created the Lab Girl Circle, and this is the reason why I created Tech Talk. So, again, my channel is a safe zone. I'm very transparent, and I wanted to hear your realistic experiences. And this is the reason why the Tech Talk or the Lab Girl Circle actually exists. Today, we will be speaking with Dane, our season finale guest on Tech Talk, and we will get into his career, his experience with MOHS. So I'm super excited about that. And if you guys will please just give a big thumbs up in the chat, that'll be awesome because we want to make sure that YouTube knows that you guys enjoy my content. And if you want to be a part of Tech Talk Season 2 next year, you definitely can. So just submit just go ahead and hit me up at my email, which is the labgirlcircle@gmail.com. You guys can follow me on Instagram at the Lab Girl Circle or on any one of my YouTube videos. You guys know that that's how you can contact me. So I want to say thank you to all my new supporters. Thank you to my old supporters. Thank you guys for sharing my content, being a part of this journey with me. And I'm super excited to end today's show with a very special guest. And all of my guests, let me just say that all of my guests have made my show what it is today. So I couldn't have done it without Susanna, Casey, Pam, Josh, and now today we got Dane in the building. So I really appreciate all of my guests for being a part of something that was very dear to me and I brought to life. So guys, thank you so much for being part of this, and I hope with this show that you guys are able to see different avenues in histology, be uplifted, be motivated, and just know that you may start one way. You may start in histology as just being a tech, but then there's so many different opportunities in histology. So thank you so much for sharing Tech Talk with me. And we're going to get into our final guest of the season one Tech Talk, which is going to be Dane. He is a MOHS Tech. And also too, we will have a Q&A at the bottom or at the end of the stream. We'll have a Q&A. So we're also guys, we're almost at 2,000 subscribers. I cannot believe it. I'm so excited. So you guys continue to share, comment, watch my old videos, all that great stuff. You guys don't know how much you mean to me and how much I'm super excited to have you a part of my community. So drop your questions in the comment section down below for Dane. And we can answer your questions at the end. And we're just going to make sure we, get to everyone's questions. If you have questions after the show, then that's cool too. I'll always answer your guys' questions. And let's see here. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into Tech Talk, you guys. So we're going to go ahead and bring Dane in, and that way we can go ahead and get the show started. Okay, I'll be right back with you guys.
There you are.
Oh, sorry, guys, I was on mute.
There you go.
How are you today?
Hey, Shan.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. Well, I want to introduce everyone to my guest, Dane. He is a MOHS Histotech, and we're going to get into um, some things today with you, Dane, because I'm super excited to have you on my season finale show of Tech Talk. I really want to say thank you so much for being part of this journey for my season finale.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to get to know everything about you. And I just want to say, you guys, if you got a question for Dane, please leave the questions in the comment section. We'll get to your questions later. Anything you want to know about modes or career modes or study tips that he may have for you guys. Whatever you guys want to know, just drop it in the comment section down below. And before we get started, please be sure to share this live with any other students or anyone you know who is in histology or modes or anyone or even for yourself. Share it and thumbs up the video. Okay, so Dane,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get to know a little bit more about you. So let's just tell me a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into histology? What is your background?
My background is military. I
Okay.
I, I did straight out of high school. I went into the military, and it was right when the war was starting, basically. So that was all I did for like years and years and years. And
Okay.
then towards the end, I'm like, I was kind of I can't. Obviously, this isn't a sustainable thing for me, so I need to go to college.
Okay.
So I knew I loved biology. I knew I loved science my whole life. No, I didn't do that in the military. I had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I ended up with a bachelor's degree in biology. And anyone who has one will tell you you can't do anything with that. You can teach, or you
Right.
can go on to med school, or they were grooming people for PA school and stuff like that. I was kind of burned out on school. I was in my 30s. I was like, man. So I started applying for any job that said lab in the name. And
Okay.
I applied for a histotech job. And the woman actually called me back and said, you're not qualified to do this. And I was like, okay, tell me more. How do
Right.
I, what is that? And she put me on to one of only two schools in New York that has a histotech program. And I called the program director, and he told me how to get on board and transfer my credits and all that stuff. And that was
And
that
here
was
you
it.
are. That was
And
it.
here I am.
So when you as far as like you calling the school, so you went through the histotech program, was it do you already have like credits or oh yeah, because you had a biology degree.
Yeah,
So
they took my anatomy and physiology. They took my chemistry. They took, a lot of my core courses. So thankfully, I was able to basically knock it out in a year. It was mostly the lab work, the bench skill stuff,
mhm.
and then my clinical hours. So
So you didn't know anything about histology, or was it like new to you? Like what is histology or
I knew what histology was, and just as a study, like the
okay.
study of tissues, from
Mhm.
my bio degree, but I didn't know what it meant like as a job. And only until once I started getting into the program and doing research, they were like, "Yeah, we process tissue and we make microscope slides." Like that kind
It
of
sounded
dead
cool,
space.
right?
Yeah, that dead space where it's like somebody gets a biopsy, and then like sometime later they find out what's wrong with them. We do all that stuff in the middle, and I was like, "Oh, all right,"
That's cool.
you know.
Yeah. It was like an aha moment, like, oh,
Exactly. Yep.
right, right. Did you ever think about maybe working like patient care like directly, nurse or anything like that or
I was kind of trying to avoid that.
Mhm.
Just like not, I don't know, coming out of the military, like I wasn't like big on social skills at that point.
Right.
So I was trying to, I knew I didn't want to do like retail or customer service or anything like that. Um, you know, I think we're all us tech and lab people are all kind of the same, where we kind of like doing what we do, and being in our own heads and just getting down on whatever the task is and doing it, and not so much for like, you know everyone who interacts with those patients has to have that customer service voice. I don't
Right,
have that.
right.
So I didn't think I would be very good at it, and I wouldn't be able to do much for the patients, but yeah.
But you're still good at it because you're doing like behind the scenes. So that actually, that counts as well. So as far as like before we get into more of your career, I know that we follow each other on social media. So, did you know about my channel before social media, or how did you come across the Lab
Instagram.
Girl?
No, it
Instagram.
was Instagram. Yeah. I mean, Histo's such a small world, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're all like, over the last 2 years, I've bumped into so many people, and then it kind of plateaued, and I'm like, well, there's not a lot of us, are there?
There's not. So
So
I think too with social media, because they have like the Facebook groups, and there's so many different conferences, and once you get, like you said, wrapped up into histology, you sort of like you go in and you do what you need to do, and then you sort of just like do patient care, and then you go home. You don't really get to interact with a lot of people,
yeah,
unless your normal coworkers. Um,
yep.
well, background, if you didn't know about me, I actually used to do MOHS. I used to work in a in-house derm lab. So
Hmm.
I used to do frozen sections,
Yep.
and it was like the craziest because I was a new histotech, and my boss used to send me on frozen runs. I'm like, why is she sending me? Like I had no clue. So I didn't know what to do. So she actually bought like a pack of hot dog weenies, and we
Yep.
actually used to practice.
Yep.
What was your method of practicing? Like how did you become confident with doing it?
It
Because I used to be so nervous.
I was nervous at first. It was really it was they threw me into the deep end,
Hmm.
honestly. When I
Didn't ask if
started
I
my
can swim.
Yeah, I started my first job, and what you going through your clinical and going through school, they're like, "Oh, by the way, this is a cryostat. This is
All
called
right.
frozen sectioning. You might see one of these a week or like two a
Right.
month, right?"
Or you may
And
not
they're
never
like,
touch it at all.
"Yeah, oh, by the way, you won't be allowed to do this. Like the
Right.
pathologist assistant will do it, or one of the docs will do it, right?" And you're just like,
Right.
"Okay, yeah, all right." And then you work at a small lab, and dermatology was trying to get their Mohs program up and going, and they
Mhm.
couldn't find any Mohs techs. So all the excisions they did went up to pathology. So I went from being told that to they're like, "Hey, we got another frozen. Hey, we got another frozen. Hey, we
That
got."
was me.
So yeah, so I was doing 5, 7 skin frozens a day for,
Right.
like, a long time, and it was just those hundreds and hundreds of repetitions. So when it came time to finding a Mohs tech and they couldn't find one, I kinda came downstairs and I was like, "Hi, I'm the guy that's been cutting your frozens for the last 8 months. I can I give this a try?" So
Yeah, it's kind of what it's I think when I was in like school, like you're right, they were like, "Hey, here's a cryostat, but you'll never touch it." And then my
right,
first
yeah.
histology job, I wasn't even doing any surgicals. It was like, "Hey, Shan, we have a frozen, and the doctor's going to meet you there." And I'm like, "Okay," like I could barely cut. I could barely cut derms. I could barely embed. But I
Yep,
used to go into the frozen, like they would do the surgery, and then I'm like in there with the pathologist, and then like the specimen would come in. I'm just praying in my head, like, okay, like, what do I do? But what I started to learn is that each pathologist was different, and they
oh,
want
yeah.
they want things done a certain way. And a lot of people, especially when you start working in a histology lab, they don't get to work as closely with pathologists like maybe you have and I have. So you get to really learn like their technique and what they want. And
Mhm,
you sort of like adapt to that. And you already know like there's really like not a lot of talking. You just go in there, do what you need to
exactly.
do. And then you print. I mean, I don't know about you, but I used to be like, please let this be, let it be negative. And
Yeah,
another one would come in. And it's like, okay, like, and then
yep.
once
Or it would
he or
be
she leaves, you're like, okay, I did my job. You have to pack up everything.
Yeah, yeah, we had 3 pathologists in rotation, and, we would get a lymph node, and most of these lymph nodes are just wrapped in fat, and
Right.
anybody who's cut frozens know that fat is your enemy, and so
Hmm.
there was always one pathologist who would just remove as much of that as possible because she knew. She was like, "Yeah, I don't wanna make this any harder on you," and there was one who was just like, "Nope, just pop it in there," and I was like, "Oh, please, no."
Have you ever?
But even in pathology, like they all they want their stuff embedded differently. You got to
Right.
find out who was on gross, and they're going to be like, they want their tips over here, this done this way, and
Hmm.
you're right. It's so much of that. Who's working today, and what do I have to remember about their
What I
load?
had to
What they like
remember to exactly, because some pathologists, you can go in and then okay, you know how they want stuff, and then boom, or you can hold like a little conversation with them, and some you just
Mhm.
they just coming straight to the point, and then you're right, and then after they leave, you sitting up there and you have to like make sure you clean up everything, and it's just
Yep.
like a whole. it's a whole task in itself. And I was like you, for the first like maybe 9-10 months, I was only doing frozen sections, but this is before I started doing MOHS. It was just frozen
Right.
sections I was doing.
Right.
But and then I got a job at a derm lab, and then they taught me how to do
Derm
MOHS.
lab's so intense. It's funny. I was
It was
laughing about it because you
stressful.
told me that. And I'm like, you don't even need me here. You worked in a derm lab doing Mo's. Like you could take the show
You
over
could do,
yourself.
because they could do it themselves. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had situations where I'm new and I'm in here and we're waiting for a specimen to come in and I'm cutting. I'm trying to freeze everything, praying that, everything's good. And I'm cutting. Sometimes I'm like, okay, Shanika, they don't even need me. Like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
Okay, Shika, let me show you. And I'm like, okay. And then like I'm thinking like, you don't even need me, sir or ma'am. Like you know how to do this, but in my mind, like I'm thinking like maybe like we are like essential though, because like it takes like, the middleman, like we're like the middleman, I guess. It's like I'm
Yeah.
coming to do
Yeah.
my one thing, but they can literally do everything by themselves. But when it's positive, when the margins are positive and they keep coming in, or there's several, like you can be in there like, y'all know, 35
Oh,
minutes, an hour, a couple of hours.
there's been a couple times they've done organ harvesting and they want
Mm,
to do frozens on the organ harvesting and
mhm.
they'll start at like 4 p.m. I was in there till 8 p.m. once because they just kept sending them up
Oh
one at
my
a time, like
God.
just checking them, and they're like, here's another one. And I was like, are we close to done yet?
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's rough.
that's pretty
It's rough.
intense. So let me ask you, Dane, how did you come up with your Instagram name,
Uh,
Mo's Nomad? I mean, is it because you're antisocial?
no, maybe. Uh, well, I thought it kind of fit because I knew I wanted to start a business doing like the traveling thing, like moving
Mhm.
around, going from clinic to clinic kind of thing. Honestly, Nomad was my call sign when I was overseas.
Oh, cool.
That was the most creativity. I was sitting there and I was like, I could not come up with a clever name, or the clever names were taken, and I was like, I just wrote it down as a placeholder, and then I just never changed it.
Yeah, I
So
like that name. It sort of reminds me of like, because I watch like van life stuff, so it sort of reminds me,
yeah,
yeah, of like that type of vibe. Yeah. So let's speak. I'm sorry, I'm not even going with my questions that I probably had because
hey,
this
no,
is
that's
just, yeah, okay, cool.
let's go. We're doing it live.
Boom. Okay, so let's talk about you traveling. Are you currently a traveling MOHS tech, or you are permanent?
I'm permanent. I work at a great clinic attached to a good hospital. Um, it's one of those things where my doctor takes a lot of vacation.
Mm,
He kind of contracted for a lot of vacation time, and I found myself, when you're a tech, the medical assistants, they can find stuff to do. They can put packs together. They can room patients and
mhm.
other things. But when you're a tech and there's nothing coming in the lab, you know, that and the fact that I recognize that there's a need, and we'll talk about this more because it always comes up when we talk about histo, like how understaffed we are,
Yeah.
how few of us there are, and it's like there's so few histotechs, and then maybe 1 in every 20 histotechs can do MOHS or will become a MOHS.
Right.
So MOHS is insanely rare, and so I saw a need in the industry where there's a lot of places out there that can't find a tech, or they
Mhm.
send them to like this kind of like 2-day crash course training, and and I'm sure we'll get into it. MOHS is difficult.
Mhm.
MOHS is difficult. You're doing the most difficult process
Yeah.
on the most difficult tissue.
Mhm.
And the point of MOHS is to make literally perfect slides.
Right.
Perfect slides.
Right.
And that's kind of why I like it. It's such a challenge. But yeah, they're just I knew that there were a lot of people out there that needed those services. And I was like, well, if I get good enough to where I can provide those services, it's like anything else. There's money to be made. Let's go find it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's crazy because whenever I was doing MOHS, probably like 3 years ago, I really didn't know. Of course, I was doing frozens, but then when I had to learn MOHS, it was a different type of intensity. It was the same like intense environment, but it's just one of those things to where, because I worked in an in-house derm, and the nurse practitioner who was the owner, him and the dermatologist, of course, will be doing the surgeries, and I'm the only histotech, and we had a lab tech, and I'm thinking literally, and I'm in control of the regular histology blocks as well.
Mhm.
So it would be Mo's Day like 2 or 3 times a week, and
Okay.
literally we would have. I mean, we're seeing patients. We have medical staff. We have it's a regular dermatology office,
Yep.
and not only are we seeing patients, and those are regular surgicals or whatever, and then we have the Mo's. It would literally be the whole day. Like we'll start like at 8 in the morning. We'll be done like at 2 p.m. And then
No
after
lunch.
that,
No
we'll have
lunch break.
no lunch break.
No lunch break.
No lunch break. It's when that last patient is done. And then also too, then you have to make sure you get that ready for the H&Es, the
Yep.
permanents. So in your field, are you someone who gets that ready for permanents as well? Because a lot of histotechs, especially students, which I gear my channel towards everyone, but especially students,
Mhm.
they really don't get to see that side of what we're speaking of because it's only
Mhm.
a certain, like I said, a select few who know how to do Mohs.
Right.
So do you get everything? Because that's only in the beginning. Do you get everything ready for the permanent H&Es and things like that?
I don't do so much the path side anymore.
Hmm.
I did it for a year. In the derm clinic, it's just the surgery. It's
Okay.
the process, the tissue, and he does the repair, and we kick him out the door. Um,
So you
that
kick
kind of
them,
yeah, kick him to the curb.
kick
Um,
them to the curb.
call him an Uber. But no, that's what was weird to me moving to Moe's was we had I had the more senior tech there, like slightly more senior to me by like a couple of weeks.
Hmm.
We were both trying to figure this out. And at the end of the day, we're taking the blocks and thawing them out. And I was like, so where are these going? Because
Right.
technology, you don't get rid of anything.
No, you
And
put them in formalin and you do what you need to do.
she put them right in the biohazard, and I was like,
What?
that's weird. Yeah, there's no need to keep
There's
them
no
because
need for it.
we're
Okay.
not processing for. Sometimes he'll do, especially for melanomas, he'll debulk the center, and we'll send that up for permanent. But then we'll
Okay.
still do Mohs on the margin. So there's a
Okay.
lot of different ways that he can approach it. But no, generally we're pretty much separated from pathology completely. I'll go and help out.
Yeah.
They're still crazy short staffed, and if it's after 4 p.m. or something, the pathologist will call down and be like, "Hey Dane, you busy? We got a frozen." And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'll come up and
That's
help you."
that's my life because it's like because I work in neuro. So instead of Mohs and frozens, I do muscle biopsies, which is freezing fresh muscle specimens, and I have
That's
to
a
use
whole thing. That's a whole
I would
thing.
listen, I will give my right arm to be doing to be doing Mohs again because I mean
Yeah,
the tissue, the muscles like this tiny, and you have to
yeah,
do the gum,
and the
and you
isopentane and all
yeah,
that.
boom, and
Yep,
no, I wish I could just put it on the chuck and put the OCT. No, I have to literally cut it in the gum, and the sections are so tiny. And you talking about perfect sections? I just I'm still trying to get a perfect section. Is getting a perfect section on I would say on Mohs or Frozens. I've had better slides, but the muscle biopsies, people like, is that hard? I'm like, yeah.
that's
If
like
you're
the Olympics of frozens right there. Yeah,
well, I'm
yeah.
like, what is it, bronze? I don't know.
You're on the board. That's all that
I'm
matters.
I'm winning something. I don't gotta be gold, but I'm bronze
Mhm,
right now.
mhm.
Um, so when exactly so now that we know like how you got into Mohs and when you literally been doing Mohs the whole time. You never did general histology or
No, I did general histology for a year.
how did
I
you like
can't.
it compared to Mohs?
I miss cut and wax. I do.
You
So
do?
there are days where I miss cut and wax. There's pros and cons. I think it's a small clinic, so our volume was never anything scary. It was like 80, 100 blocks a day,
Okay.
between three people, that's nothing. You can
Yeah,
crush
that's
that.
nothing.
Um, and so, when you go down to Moe's, it's different. Now you're doing, instead of all that volume, now you're doing 10 cases. Maybe you're doing
Yeah.
6 cases. Maybe you're doing, at most, you might see 12 cases in a day, but each one takes a lot longer, and
Mm-hmm.
each one requires more attention to
More
detail.
attention. Yeah.
So you got to
Especially with the
keep
grossing.
that in that mind. So when I go up, the few times where he'll be on vacation, they'll be like, "Hey, can you come help us out?" I'll be like, "Yeah." So I'll go upstairs and cut wax. I gotta switch my mindset to, all right, I got 30 blocks next to me chilling. My water bath's all set, and it's clip face, clip face, clip
Right.
face.
And then you have to sit on that for a little bit and let the blocks so it's
Yep,
like you have to
yep.
switch gears and you sitting there looking like, okay, like what do I do again? Like what
Mhm.
How many sections go on the slide?
Yep. And I remember thinking, like, I look at the clock and I'm like, well, I know I can cut faster than this. What's
And
wrong?
you know,
I've been doing MOHS. That's what it is.
so what, it took you the whole day to do 30 blocks?
No, not that bad, but
So for those who don't know about MOHS, what can you tell them? Like, what are the pros to being a MOHS tech?
uh, it's for me. I like the challenge. I like
Mhm,
that it's more challenging part of histotech. It's a little bit slower pace, right? So
mhm,
if you work in a bigger lab where you've heard these stories, they don't let them touch IHC, they don't let them do this, they don't let them do that. They basically handcuff you to a microtome, and you're gonna sit there and cut 600 blocks. That's what you're gonna
right,
do, whatever. It's not that. It's much more slowed down. It's much more attention to detail. It's a much smaller setting. It's probably going to be you and maybe two other techs tops.
right.
You work exclusively in a cryostat. Um, Generally speaking, the pay is better. This is kind of a
Mhm,
weird thing to talk about because, you see the pay scale is just like huge range. And
mhm,
I see numbers, online when I first started that were like, there's no way I'll be making that much. That's like doctor pay. And then
mhm,
others were like, well, I can make more at McDonald's than that.
right,
So it's MOHS is kind of this weird place where there's not enough of us that there's really an industry standard for all that stuff yet. But for the most part, because of what you're doing and because of the skill involved, it does pay better than
then
standard.
a regular histotech. Yeah,
Yeah.
on my
And if
channel.
you're not, you should ask for more money.
Boom. Because on my channel too, I talk about like how I'm very transparent. Like whenever I was a traveler, I try to talk about traveling and just let people know that there's pros and cons of traveling. Like your base pay may be low, but your per diem, you may have a lot of money in per diem, but
Housing allowance. Yep.
boom. And then also too, you get to live you get to live free, or if
Mhm.
if you're moving, there's so many pros. But as far as like pay, you're right. Like if you that's a specialty that a lot of people can't do, so you can definitely ask for more money if
Mhm.
you do know how to do modes. And even I said, hey, just go check out a frozen room, or just because if you work in a smaller, because the difference, I do a lot of videos too, difference between a big lab and a small lab, because I come from small lab.
Huge difference. Yeah. Oh
Huge
yeah.
difference. And that's probably the reason why I've only been a tech for 7 years. But the reason why I probably have so much exposure is because if you're the only tech in your lab, or maybe like two or three other people, you
Mhm.
really do everything from the time that block get there, processing, embedding, cutting, sending the slides out,
Yep.
packaging, QCing, excuse me, QCing. So it's so much that you do as a tech. So sorry guys. There's so much you do as a tech. Hold on real quick. Sorry. Okay. I don't know what's wrong with my throat. I'm sorry, y'all. So there's so much that you do as a tech. So I mean, if you work in a bigger lab, you may not have that exposure because
Yeah.
there's like 20 histotechs and there's like 20 lab techs. But when you
Mhm.
work in a lab where you are the tech and you are the lab tech, that's the type of environment that I come from. So that's probably why the
Exactly.
exposure is a little bit different. And I understand, how to do everything, or try
And I
to.
know you tend to do this more at the end of your segment where you're like, do you have any advice? But I mean, that is the one thing that sticks out in my mind is I think that a lot of techs come out of school and they're like, I want to work at the big hospitals. I
Mm-hmm.
want to work at Cornell. I want to work at Boston. I want to work for
Mm-hmm.
the big research places. And generally those are the places where they got, just a row of microtomes and
Yep.
you're a cutting factory. They got IHC, but they ain't gonna let you touch it. They don't trust you. The
Right.
guy that's been working here for 5 years, he's the only one that gets to do IHC. You don't
Mm-hmm.
touch frozens, you don't special stains, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, in like
Maybe.
2 years, come back to us. You work at a small lab like you and I come from, um, when I first started, it was run by two techs, and they'd both been there for like 25 years. And when I got there, they were like, "Hi, welcome to pathology. We're gonna shadow for a couple days. By the way, I'm retiring at the end of the month, so
Ooh,
all of this is yours."
is yours.
And I was right out of school, and so it was like you said, it was like special stains, figure it out.
Right.
IHC, here's the bond. I'm gonna walk you through it. Figure it
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
you develop so many more bench skills and so much more proficiency than you
Yeah.
would working in a big lab. I
Yeah.
encourage everybody straight out of school, find a small place.
I do
Find a
too.
small, you are going to get so much better, so much faster, so much more exposure, so much your resume is going to glow
Right.
versus, you put Cornell on there and they're going to look at that and go, all right, that's very prestigious, but what can you do?
But what can you do? Yeah, I
Like,
actually agree with you. Within that short amount of time, I did MOHS, I did Frozen's, and then I traveled for like a year and a half, and then now I'm doing, I did special stains. Now I'm doing muscle,
right.
so autopsies and stuff like that. So I think you're right. Like you want to make sure that because once you get lost in the sauce in this big lab, it's all about trust. Even though like you could probably do something if you teach me, I can do it. But you're
Yeah.
right. When you come in the door, it's like we only trust because the person I work with, they've been there for like 30 years. And you start
Right.
to yeah. And so it's like when I'm coming in the door, it's like they have to like, okay, who's this girl? Like, make sure
Yeah.
you train her, make sure you teach her. And so I'm like
There's a
very
whole new guy mentality. Like, oh, the
it's
new
like
guy.
who is she going to
Yeah.
last? I'm like it's every day I wanted to break
Right.
down and say bye, but I knew this was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So you're right. I encourage a lot of you guys if you're watching too. Don't always want to go in a big lab. That's great, but you build troubleshooting skills when you're by yourself or when you're in a small lab. You learn how to be efficient. You learn how to think on your own. You learn how to email, doctors or pathologists. You learn how to communicate a little bit more efficiently when everything is on you.
You learn stuff you didn't think you learn how to fix
You
the cover
you
slip.
break down at the end of the day, you're looking like you got it all together, but really you damn don't.
Yeah. They're like, you'll go somewhere and they'll be like, hey, have you ever seen this automatic cover slipper before? And you'll be like, not only have I
No.
seen it, I know how to take it apart and fix it
Right.
because we don't we don't have that kind of support. The stainer, oh, I know how to program that thing because it was just me.
It was just me. Me was like automatic cover slipper. I was the cover slipper. That's how my
Yeah,
life
well,
used to
yeah,
be.
I got lucky having an automatic cover slipper. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you're so lucky
well,
because we had like the little wax trimmer. I was the trimmer. Where's my butter knife? Like I used to like
I got a wax trimmer at this small clinic. When I did my clinical in a larger hospital, they were using like dull knives to
the
shave their
dumb
blocks,
knife.
and I was like, "How much is a wax trimmer? They can't be that expensive."
It's probably like $800.
It
Everything's like
probably
super
is.
expensive.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
All right. So as far as you working with closely with the pathologist, like how many like what would you say was like a hurdle working closely with the pathologist like every day, like going from but you was in the military, so maybe you're probably like used to that, but it's like a lot of people will be intimidated to work so closely with these pathologists. Like how did you get over that anxiety or fear? Did you have any?
I don't think I had any. I think
Okay.
it's like you said. I was a little bit older. I'd had a lot of brushes with varying levels of authority. I towards the end when I was a higher rank, I was authority, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was just a question of understanding like what their role was and what my role was, and it was just no matter how close or chummy or buddy they got, it was like you call them doctor, right? It's that
Yeah.
professional courtesy. They earn that title. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
call them. You never call them, oh, hey, Viaz, can you, like
No.
some people might fall into that trap, but coming from a military background, it's like you always keep that in mind. It's like, okay, where the line is drawn from getting
Yeah.
too comfortable. My pathologists were great. They were great. They were never, and I know a lot of it has to do with there are labs where you never see the pathologist.
Yeah.
You get a request over a computer,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do see him, somebody's in trouble because somebody screwed up,
Someone
or
screwed up. Yeah.
yeah, or they're like, what's with these levels, or you cut through the block or something, right?
Yeah.
But our pathologists did all the grossing, and our lab was so small that the grossing was next to everything, and they heard all the conversations, they participated in the conversations, they were very laid back, very chill, and it was
Yeah.
just very comfortable environment. But I know that there's probably places where the pathologists just they don't interact with the lab or the techs,
Mm-hmm.
they just sit in their office. You run them out the slides and you go right back to what you're
You go
doing.
back to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
always
I
I always encourage too, because I mean, I don't know. I guess because I come from a place to where I used to work, the pathologist is literally like through the hallway, and we literally have to like deliver slides to them. And I think it's really important to probably, to if you do get a chance to work with closely with pathologists, that they do get to, see, like you said, your personality. You still have their respect, but they get to know not just you, oh, you're the histotech, but they get to know who you are. They get to know like how important, you think your job is, or how
Yes.
they get to see your workflow, your work ethic.
Yes. Yep.
And then it starts to become natural, because I have like I don't know, like whenever I have people of authority, people gonna say like, how do you, talk to them like normal, like, they put their pants on, one leg at a time.
They're just people. Yeah,
They're
they're
just
just people.
people.
They got a
But
medical degree. They were in college longer than us, but they're
that's
just
it.
people.
But they
Yeah.
went to medical school. They just people. But the thing is, they know my work ethic. So if you know my work ethic, I want you to know like my who I am too, as my personality. So I just won't look like that girl who just talks.
Yep.
But you know my work ethic. But I think it's good too, like for a lot of these newer techs to probably get that exposure, because like you said, like being a MOHS tech, a lot of people don't know about it. So it's a lot of opportunity in this field. So if you was a first time, MOHS tech, what would be your interview like tips for someone who wants to get into MOHS? Like, what are the questions? Like, do they just have you cut some things, or do they train you? Because mine was just direct hands-on training. So what would
It
be your
helps if
advice?
you. So I think it helps if you start working there. Like if you were already working there, like kind
Hmm.
of like you and I were, they knew
Hmm.
us from previous work. But if you're just cold interviewing, they it's a live interview. They want to see you cut something. They'll get, it'll be like dog ear, or they'll, bring in something that you can throw in a chuck and cut, and they want to see you produce slides. I mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, what we do is all bench skill. It's finesse. It's fine motor control. It's good that you know your stuff, and it's good that you can show up on time. But any resume can show that.
Yeah.
They want to see you cut. They want to see they want good slides, and they want them quick.
Right.
And if you can do those two things, you're in.
So
Honestly, but
quality and efficiency.
quality and efficiency. That's
Yeah,
it.
they
Yep.
go together.
And keeping the books. Like when you're in MOHS Tech, so it might be one person's job to do like CLIA and JCO, paperwork and keep the records and QCs. In the MOHS lab, I do everything. I do
Mm,
everything. So, you got to make sure that you're smart on that stuff too.
like for the CAP and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm the
While you're
safety officer. Are you the safety officer too of your lab? I am.
I'm everything. I'm everything. So we
I'm
have a
everything.
casual and we have a part timer that I trained, but I'm it. I'm the full timer. Like it's my
That's
lab.
it. So
Yeah.
it is your lab.
It's literally my lab.
It's
Now
literally your lab.
it's some people have closet space that's bigger than my lab, but it's my lab.
It's yours. Do you have a
It's,
window at least?
I don't have a window. I
You
want a
know,
window. I'm about to bring a sledgehammer to work and make a window.
and
I
make
need
a
that
window.
vitamin D.
um,
It's good though. I like it.
what would you say are the cons of being? Are there any cons in your opinion of being a MOHS tech?
I mean, you're gonna if you ever want to go back to pathology, you might lose some of those skills, and maybe lose is a strong word, but these are all perishable skills. Everything you and I do, everything your audience and everybody does, they're all perishable skills, and if you don't do them, you lose them. So like I said, cut and wax, it took me a couple of blocks to get back on that bike. It really did.
Right.
Working with the equipment, the bond, if someone told me to fire up something on the bond, I'm gonna spend a few minutes staring at the screen trying to figure out what the correct label. But other than that, honestly, no, I love MOHS. I
Good.
absolutely love it. I'm very happy with the move and the choice.
So, do you have any advice as far as studying? Did you have to? You probably told me early in the interview, but did you have to take the ASCP and like everyone else? And for studying, what do you feel like, if you can remember, was the one thing that really, basically maybe held you back, or it took you a little bit longer to study, or what was the most difficult chapter you think whenever you was in
I
the
I
study?
hated fixatives. I
Yeah.
hated fixatives. And a lot of that has to do with It's an unpopular thing. Everyone talks about it. There's a bunch of fixatives that we get tested on that just are not in use anymore.
Right.
All the stuff that's got mercury chloride in it, everything that's really nasty. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, you might hear about somebody busting it out for some, electron microscopy or something like that.
Right.
But generally speaking, so much of the exam is a lot of outdated stuff,
Yeah.
and fixatives were just, for some reason, where I had to keep going back to it, and looking at it, and trying to get my head around it.
Yeah, I know. I do. I'm starting some study sessions for fixation, and well, I'm finished now, but just trying to like learn fixation was like the hardest, and trying to like give study tips is actually hard too, because when I was studying for it, it was the hardest. That and special stains, but most of the fixative, one, I couldn't pronounce, and number two, we never use it, and it's when you're commonly just using the same things, like maybe glue or formalin or whatever. So like you don't even use half of the things. So it's just like yeah, fixative is probably the most difficult chapter other
Yep.
than
And those really rare special stains,
yeah.
those out there oddball special stains. It's not, your big three, right? Your elastic, your PAS, your
Your
GMS, and
GMS. Yeah.
one trichrome a week, maybe.
Yeah.
So
But that's the and speaking of pros and cons, when you do work in a bigger lab, because I work in a bigger lab now, and we use everything. We do Northern Starries, fight.
yeah, yeah.
You actually get to see those working in a bigger lab, but in a smaller lab, especially if you're just doing maybe derm, you don't really get to see, nothing but a few. So that's a benefit of a big lab too, where you get to
Mhm.
actually like check the control, and it's, you see. But as far as like just Frida Carson is just like massive, and half of the
Oh
stuff
yeah.
you need to retain.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I feel like people are inventing new special stains all the time too.
Really?
People are just randomly playing in a lab, and they're like, "Did you know that you could do a silver stain, and instead of light green, you could do this, and and the slides are beautiful?" And you're like, "Oh damn!" It's
Like, damn,
almost
I didn't even
it's
know that.
yeah, it's like finger painting. It's like, people are just always experimenting, which is cool, which is great. I love
Yeah.
that we're doing that in the industry. We got so many people who are so passionate and so creative. Half the time in the lab is just like, hey, I wonder what this would do.
Let me try this out.
I tried to replace chromic acid for a long time with GMS because it was just like so toxic and so bad,
Mhm.
and it was an hour long. So I failed miserably, but I tried like 5 or 6 different ways to oxidize for GMS that didn't involve chromic acid. But
Oh,
it's science. Mess around and find
yeah.
out. That's why we love
Mess
doing
around and find out.
it.
All right. So, as far as MOHS, for people who really don't know, or are newbies who really don't know about MOHS,
Mhm.
what is a typical day in Dane's life? Like, what's the typical day in your life? What when you go in, do you normally see how many surgeries you got that day, or what's scheduled, or is it just like, hey, is it off the spur, or what's the typical day? Is everything planned for you?
Yep, pretty much. I'll go in it's like 7-ish.
Hmm.
That's the other thing I like about Mo's, a little bit of a later day.
That
Um,
is a late day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we go in at 7. Surgeries start 7:30, and I'll go in. I'll set up the grossing station. I'll run the QC. Make sure everything's good with the cryostat. Change the blade. I'll go into the system and see what our patients are for that morning. Typically, it's 4. And I'll lay out my slides, and I'll write out my slides ahead of time, because once you get that specimen, you just want to go. You don't want to
Right.
be stalling or wasting time. And then I kind of hang out. I'll check with the medical assistants. They'll have the packets built out in the surgery rooms, and there's always a picture of the patient's site.
Oh.
So I want to go see that. I want to go look at, what am I looking at? What is it? When you do Mohs long enough, you start to learn that different sites behave differently.
Mm.
And you can see this on my Instagram. I love talking about the stuff on my Instagram, obviously. So
Yeah, you guys
scalp.
go and check out his Instagram, because he actually got videos that he showed, and tips and tricks on how to cut different sites, or different, sites on the
Techniques.
foremost.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So different sites behave differently. Is it going to be a big leg? Is it going to be, it might just say scalp on the board, and then I'll go look at it, and it's going to be this big, and I'll be
Oh,
like,
wow.
okay, well, that's going to be 6 blocks, and now I need
Hmm.
to plan
Does it
ahead.
still have the hair on it? Because I remember I used to get it. It would still have like the hair, and my boss would never shave it. But I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, the medical assistants are supposed to do that. Usually they
Mhm.
do, but sometimes it's you'll actually find a couple on my Instagram where I've got it splayed out and you can see the hair and the
Oh
chuck
my god.
and all the hair follicles, but that's
It
part of
used
the
to
job.
freak me out. It'd be like this big old like I used to get like a piece of a scalp and something. And he'll bring it in. I'm like, oh my god, it's the hair. I'm just like, you know what? You could have shaved this, sir.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of weird because in pathology it comes in a formalin cup, and by the time you get it, it's processed and
Hmm.
whatever. And it's like you go to Moe's and it's like, hey, here's this specimen, hot and fresh. It was
Hot and
literally in
fresh.
a person 20 seconds ago, and you're like, man, that's weird.
Yeah, that's me with muscle. We get it fresh too, and it's like, or we get nerve too. And like, here's your left sural
Hmm.
nerve, and it's like, what am I?
I,
I'm getting some of like the gross, pieces of tissue, but I'm just like, and every time I'm like, ew, but I'm like, okay, let me get to it, and then I just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I had
exactly.
to freak out at first. I'm like, I'm really doing this? Like, oh my god, ew, like,
Sometimes you do
okay,
stop and it's kind of gross, but I'm gonna say it, whatever. It's like this is our job, right? If I
right,
got a nose specimen and a lot of times they just you kind of dissociate and it's just a circle. It's just a circle. It's got a margin, you know what you got to do. And I'll be cutting and grossing it and trying to lay those edges down.
yeah.
And you push them with a scalpel and a little white head will pop out of
Oh
a
my
pore.
god,
And you stop and go, oh yeah, this was like you got to remind yourself like this is a patient. They're in there waiting on me
I
right now,
know, I know. You like, you know what? Okay, Shanika, put your ew aside. Like, how
Yeah,
long
yeah.
have you been doing this?
Okay, game face. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Like, how long you been doing this? Like, I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this? And I'm like, okay, let me get it done. And you
It's
feel
good that
good
you
once
have that
everything's
reaction
accomplished.
though. That reaction shows that we're not too blunted or too crazy yet, right?
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
um, you guys, if you guys got any questions for Dane, please go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below. And we can go ahead and get to your questions here. Let's see here. I think I got some questions for you, Dane. Let me see. Go to it. High Level Girl, Big Dane Halligan fans here. Look, I told you was gonna be famous. Look at you. You're being modest. Look, I told you. You're gonna be signing autographs after this in New York.
I hope not.
You're famous. All right. So Ward Halverson. All right. And Richard Cook says, woohoo. Are these you know these people?
I know. Yep, I know.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, not
And
actual
then,
fans, fake fans.
yeah, they're big fans. And then, Dane, why are you so incredibly cool and amazing? Also, on a more serious note, look at he's like,
This is war. Yeah, yeah. I apologize.
you are
Uh,
on the season finale. Okay, this
all right,
is this is we're giving you your flowers today,
all
basically.
right. So on the serious
Uh,
note,
on a serious note, why you're cool and amazing, in what
mm,
way did your extensive military experience influence your learning about histology? Good question, Ward. So,
um,
how did it?
I don't think it interacted with the military at all. I think what the military is really good for is it gives you that work ethic and
Hmm.
it just makes you grow up faster. So when you finally do decide to go to college, like in your 30s, um, I wasn't wasting any time drinking, partying. I see people walking into class late, and I'm just like, why are you late? Like
Right.
that's not cool. You're not supposed to be late. And so you already have that routine and that work ethic and mindset built in. So it makes college like easy. Honestly, the hard parts that people find about college are that routine and that structure. You've already got on lock. So it makes all that stuff a breeze. And then you just focus on the material.
So, well, thank you for your service. I know that's what I should say in the beginning. I couldn't be in the military. I'm so sorry. I would be the late one. I'm sorry, Dane. I would be the late one.
Well, and eventually everybody gets there, right? You start your first job and you're like, "Oh, this is real. Like, I'll get fired if I'm late." Okay,
I'm
all
gonna
right.
get
And we all get there.
Or
Yep.
how about the patients are waiting on me and I'm sitting up here and I'm late? Yeah, that's not cool.
Right, right.
Let me see. I have a question too from Instagram. I probably should have had this up. Okay. So I got a question for you from Instagram, and a subscriber said, I asked about this, and my professor replied that MOHS wasn't taught in the program. I want to know about it. is it a CE that might be available after getting certified, or did you have to get certified as a MOHS tech, or is just you, because I did go to a MOHS conference a few years ago in Chicago,
Yep.
and this was before it wasn't even certified. Like our boss sent us, but I didn't think there was any type of like certification, but I think they were working on it. But she wants to know, do she need to get certified for, or is just sort of like, maybe it's hands-on, or what can she do to actually get into the field?
Yep. So there really isn't. New York and Florida are the two states that want you to be a licensed histotech in order to do MOHS.
Okay.
Otherwise, pretty much everywhere else, what a lot of places do is the dermatologist will have his staff of medical assistants and
Mhm.
nurses, and he'll generally pick out one or ask around or whatever, like who wants to do MOHS, and they send them to. There's a couple of different companies that do MOHS training, MOHS conferences.
Mhm.
Beck Consulting is a big one, but there's a lot of smaller, really good ones out there too, but they do a 2-day training course in New Jersey, and I think it's good. I think trying to learn MOHS in 2 days is, I think that's a
Can
lot
you
to
really
ask.
learn MOHS? Like, can you really learn it in 2 days?
I
Maybe if you
mean,
got some experience, like maybe like me, because I haven't done it in a few years. So maybe
right.
if I was to go to a 2-day training, then maybe I can.
It
It'll
would
be
be
a
a
refresher.
refresher for you.
Hmm.
Exactly. No, and this is kind of one of those things in the industry we're talking about, but bottom line, no, there's no licensing or
No.
credentialing required. They will give you a lot of these places will give you a certificate after the training.
Hmm.
There's no legal weight to it.
And
There's
there's no
no
guarantee either.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. So there's nothing you have to do ASCP wise. There's nothing you have to do with like state licensing or anything like that. If you're a licensed histotech, you're golden. You're good to go.
Right.
It's just learning the skills and doing them. And like I said, New York and Florida are the two states that are like, nope, you got to be a licensed histotech. We're not going to let
Right.
CLTs do it. We're not going to let medical assistants or RNs do it. Everywhere else, whoever you are, you can do it. Pretty much.
Yeah. And also to Nevada, you need a license, just period. Because I'm licensed in Florida and Nevada,
Yep.
because that's where. But New York, my friend was trying to be licensed in New York, and I think she told me like just being licensed. It was, I think I don't know, like the route was kind of like hard for her to get licensed. Like, how difficult is it to be, if I'm already licensed in Florida and Nevada? Do I need to take a test for New York? Because I have a subscriber too who always asks me about being licensed in New York. So what's the difference? Like, what do you have to do extra to be licensed? I can just fill it out and I'm licensed, or I have to take a test, or what I need to
I
do?
I didn't have to take a test. I just took the ASCP, and I
And that
think
made
it's
you
just
licensed.
yeah, I think it's just the same route.
Okay.
Like with any other state, you go to their website, career New York State
Yeah.
career website or whatever, and you have to apply for it, and you got to send them their money. That they want their
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. That's
That's
what Nevada did. And when I passed my test in Florida, it automatically made me HTL because you have to have that state license.
mhm,
Um,
yep.
okay. Let's see here. Devanya Jackson asks, I posted this question before, but what do you do if you don't have a histo program in your area? Thank you for your question, Devanya. So, if you don't have a histo program in your area, I would probably suggest maybe looking online for a histology school. Maybe you can do online. Um, that would probably be my best bet. Probably look online and see, because I think too, if you do school online, it's probably a lot cheaper as well. But you may just have to
Yep.
find like maybe a clinical site to do your externship. But what's if you can let us know what state you're in, that would be great. But what you think, Dane? If she doesn't have a histo program in her area.
Yeah, Danya. So there's two schools in New York that do this, and there's where I went. There's Cobleskill, and then there's another school called Broome. And Cobleskill is where you physically go, you take your classes, whatever. Broome is online, so you can become a licensed histotech online. Um, I will say it's probably tough because again, a lot of what we do is hands-on. So I'm not so sure how you would. I think you get the core. Um, Educational points about it. You get that foundation in histology,
Mm-hmm.
but when you get done, Broome basically says, okay, you better be working somewhere where you can do. We're not going to place you for a clinical like Skill does. Skill has affiliates all over New York, and they will literally call up, Bassett Healthcare Center. They'll call up Cornell. They'll call up NYU and
NYU.
say, we got 2 students. We're going to send them to you. Can you give them a 400-hour clinical? And they'll say, yep. And it's unpaid, and they get free labor, so they love it.
Yeah.
And but Broome basically says, we're not going to do that. SUNY Broome works really well if you're already working somewhere at a hospital, and you basically go to pathology and say, hey, I'm a Broome student. Can I come up? Can I shadow? Can you sit down? Can you show me and it's you get all that on the job training. So it is very possible to do it online. Tennessee? Okay. Yeah. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, me either.
But
yeah, just check. I would definitely say check. It has to be, well, not saying it has to be, but maybe there's some online programs like Dane was saying. You don't necessarily have to be in your state, but at least you can do that. Do you already work, at a lab or at a hospital? Because at least if you do the course or do the program online, then maybe your lab that you work at now, you can do your clinicals, there. So that's an actual, that's something you can think about. But I wouldn't just give up if that's what you truly want to do.
Oh no, I would not give up on. Yeah,
I wouldn't give up. All right, so let me see. Okay, so Ward said big fans. Okay.
I think we've heard enough. Unless it's a serious question, we've heard enough from Ward.
We didn't hear enough. That's fine. He said, "Unless it's a serious question." Let's see here. Yosef says, "Hey, MOHS, I guess like any MOHS online books."
Not that I could find. So just some background, a little bit more background, so much background. When I first started doing MOHS, I was like, okay, I'm pretty good at frozens. I got a lot of, repetitions and whatnot. So how do we do this? And, again, go on my Instagram, the bunch of people that I follow and people that follow me, check out their Instagram as well.
MOHS Nomad, by the way, you guys, that's Dane's Instagram. Have to plug you.
It'll talk about why MOHS is different from regular frozens. We don't bread loaf, we lay it down on edge, whatever. But there are techniques that make it easier to do. And when you're dealing with skin, you're always dealing with fat. So getting perfect sections with fat is a challenge that took the most amount of training. So when I was trying to look for resources on how to learn how to do this, nobody in MOHS wants to share their secrets. Ooh. This is what I learned. And this is one of the reasons I set up my Instagram and did it the way that I did, because a lot of people view their craft as their paycheck and they don't want any competition. If you're in MOHS and you're good, you don't talk about how you do what you do. I had a lot of people be like,
"This is secret society."
Yeah, so I had to do a lot of wood shedding. I did find a couple people who were really helpful, and they said, try this, change your blade angle, do this, move it over here, only freeze the fat. If you're freezing up here, you're going to chatter at this and that. And then just wood shedding the hell out of it. And so to answer your question, no, it's not very published. There's not a lot of material out there. And really, it's just people like me and other people on Instagram. I think there's stuff on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me either.
But other social media platforms are going to be your best resource. And it's also because there's visuals. There's visuals, there's videos. Watch videos, because you can see what they're doing. You can pick up those subtleties of how they're doing what they're doing. It's not just pictures and someone trying to explain it to you.
You know what? I'm glad you actually touched on that. It's really good to hear you say that, because that's the only way that if guests are open, then that's the only way they're really going to come on my shows, because we're not the gatekeepers, right? That's what I mean. If it wasn't for, I'm gonna just say this for myself. Like whenever I was a new tech, there was no one on YouTube where I can go and, I guess like ask a question to, or ask, because you're only in school for a certain amount of time and you can only ask the teachers a certain amount of thing, or maybe your classmates or something like that. But who was there for you after hours?
I'm having trouble with decals, or I'm having trouble, like I can't get this one stain to work. since I've started pathology and histology, I've noticed that we are our own resource.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we don't have this community, there's no one to answer these questions. And you can look
Right.
to the doctors and they don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, it's good to start a dialogue with your doctors. It's
Mm-hmm.
good to get to know them, make sure that they know what you do and
Yeah.
how hard what you do is, so that they can appreciate,
So they can appreciate it. Yeah.
Exactly. But for
Yeah.
the most part, like, you're your own resource. And when I first started doing Mo's, I felt like I was alone in a field. Like, there was
Mm-hmm.
just nobody helping me out. And I was like, man, this sucks. And I've had so many people come to me on this. So many people. I don't have that many followers,
You
but
got me. You got me.
when I got 9 people come to me and say this,
You
that's a
do.
lot to me.
We got one right here.
I got so many people coming to me and saying, like, this is so huge. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to do Mo's for 4 or 5 years, and I've never had somebody explain it this way. Thank you. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, that's that
That's
right
what you're
there.
doing it
That's why
for.
I do this, right?
That's
Yeah,
why you're doing it. And
that's what I'm
I,
doing.
I think too, like even when I did Mo's, I didn't know what the hell I was doing if I'm being real with you. Like
Yeah,
I just literally got thrown into it. It was just
yeah.
like I could barely like in bed. Like we were getting like everything. Like I was still learning how to embed skin like the
Yep.
right way. And then I had to learn how to ink something and run a whole lab.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that you understand like how much you are giving back to this community or to this field because everyone there's a lot of older generations and they may not have the
Yeah,
resource to get on to make a YouTube or to make an Instagram.
right.
So
We're in that era where we've got that ability
right.
to reach
We're
out
in
to
the
each
era and I just appreciate you because I mean the fact that you wanted to come on the show and talk about Mo's because I can talk about it, but people won't really understand what it is unless they've actually done it.
other. Mm-hmm. Or
And
seen
it's
it.
just
Yeah.
I think it's a part, if you have the opportunity to do it, I feel like you should do it and learn it because that's something that's going to add to your not only to your
Yeah.
resume, but it adds to overall you as an overall tech.
Well, it's what we say in the military, put tools in your toolbox. Nobody's saying you got to
Oh,
sit
I
there
like that.
and you don't have to move your career entirely, right? But
Hmm.
if you have an opportunity to go spend some time in a Mo's lab and learn how to
Do
do a
it.
new thing, put that tool in your toolbox. Carry that around with you.
Hmm.
Why you should never be at a point where you're not trying to learn or trying to get better at your trade.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes too, people can look at you as if like if I say, hey, I want to be safety officer, but I already do neuro or whatever. It's like, don't look at it as a competition. Look at it as like one, I just want to keep learning. I want to keep advancing. I want to keep, inspiring or, and the fact that you got your channel in my type of job, in my not my type of job, but what I do, I can't record what I'm doing for HIPAA reasons. So
Right.
I think it's really good that I'm able to see you and follow you and you actually take me back to a time to where like, damn, like I used to do that too. Like I love like I miss Mo's, I miss derm, I miss that world. And when you're doing like one specialty, I think I like that too because I do neuro, so that's one specialty. But like doing like one thing is like you get to actually like really perfect your craft and really
Hmm.
like just get into it and become that. And I
Hmm.
think it's good that you have your Instagram. I'm glad that you actually create your Instagram because if I would have never created my Instagram on the Lab Girl Circle, then I would never knew who you were, started following you, and then you start to see other individuals who are like, oh, like okay, histology is small, but we need to reach out more and be more transparent and say, hey, I'm willing to give back. Because there's so
Small
many
but
people who want to
connected.
be in the field.
Yep. Small but connected. Yep. Yeah. Don't burn any bridges in histology. Reach out as much as you can. Help
Hmm.
each other. Help each other. Like,
Yep.
the stinginess that I found in Mo's blew my mind. Came across histo by accident. Yeah, didn't we all? Right?
Yeah, we all.
They don't talk about it in school. We all just tripped over it and we're like, oh, this is how microscope slides are made.
This
Oh,
what this right. And then like later in life, you start to see yourself at the doctor's office like, oh God, I gotta get a biopsy. And it's like, but before I even got into histology, I wasn't getting biopsies. It was like now that I'm in
yeah,
histology, it's like, oh, I need to get this checked out.
Oh yeah, since I've been to dermatology, right? That's always the way, right? Since I've been to dermatology, I would have never bothered. And now I'm like, man,
Oh,
I got
something a
some
little
weird looking
strange.
moles. Yeah, I gotta get in here, man. I got
I
some
gotta get
stuff.
this mold. I gotta get this mold checked out.
Yeah, these guys shows me a picture of like, oh yeah, so we biopsied this melanoma, and he's got the patient's picture up there, and I go, I got some stuff that looks like
That
that.
looks like that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no. To what you were saying, like, oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
What I loved about starting my Instagram that I noticed was, for one, it was making me better
Right.
because I'm sitting there going, okay, I got to make content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know this as a content
Yeah,
creator, right? Sometimes you're just sitting there going, man, I made content in like 2 weeks. Like
that's me.
and so, I'll be sitting there, one of my videos was it just I was cleaning up after cases were done, and I was like, I wonder if you can cut sections at 1 micron. I wonder
Ooh,
if that's even
yeah,
possible.
I seen that. I seen
Yeah,
you do
so I
that.
so I made a video that was like the 1 micron challenge, and I sat there for you can't see this in the video, but I sat there for 2 hours, move the roll plate, do this, move the roll plate, move the blade, move the roll plate, and it was so hard. But I finally got it, and I was like, and along the way, I learned one or two things, and I made that content, and now I'm better. So now it's like, oh, it'd be really good if I can cut this at 3 microns to do
Right.
better IHC. And now I'm like 3 microns. That's easy. I know I can do that now.
That's cool. I mean, you know what too, because and also too, now that you're on the content creator side of it, I think because people not people, but I don't want to say people, but some people can assume that being a content creator is easy, and it is not. So one, you sitting up here having to actually do the work, and then
Hmm.
two, you need to come up with content that's actually like uh that people are going, because our attention spans are so short.
Yeah, yeah.
So something that's interesting and to the point, and then answering questions, and then also too, you get that gratification when people say, hey, like, thank you for posting it, or that's cool, or how did you do that, or you just helped me
Yep,
with a tip, or you just helped me with a trick, or like I've been
yep.
struggling, or like how does that make you feel now that you are getting like this type of feedback, like what you're putting in is actually like, is people are receiving it in a positive way.
It's phenomenal. It's like when you are a content creator, and I know you know this, you sometimes you feel like you're just talking to a camera in a room, right? Like you
Hmm.
forget that there's people out there. Like you have followers, you have viewers, but they're just numbers on a screen.
Right.
And I make videos. I know they're getting views and a couple of likes and this and that,
Well,
but
who are you really reaching, like who's
who?
really
Yeah,
benefiting?
is this? Am I actually doing anything? It's just numbers on it. And then you get somebody who messages you and they say something very human, and they say,
Hmm.
"This was fantastic. This changed the way I do things. I never thought to do it this way. I'm going to switch to the slide technique, et cetera, et cetera." And you kind of sit back and go, I just made a positive change in somebody's life just doing something that I thought was silly. Something that was just I was just trying to get something out there because I haven't been active in a couple of weeks or
Right.
whatever. And that just all that makes you want to do is like, all right, what's the next thing I'm
What's
gonna do?
next?
It
And
pumps
also
you up.
too,
Yeah.
you're doing it through, and also too, like, give yourself some grace because you're actually doing it while you're working too. So that
Kinda,
takes a
yeah.
lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to do it for us. And you're actually like taking a moment. Not only have you taken care of the patient, but you're actually like trying to feed information out too, so we can be
Mhm.
better with what we do. And that's the reason why I always say I created the lab girl, because who did we have to, who look like you and I, like who was on the internet, someone can look to us and be like, damn, like there's actually like someone who's like just like me, and like I'm nervous to be a histotech, or I'm in school, I don't know what to expect, or I always say I'm not here to teach anyone anything. Your teachers is for your teaching, right?
Yep.
That's what you pay tuition for. I'm
Yep.
here to just give you whatever tips, or I used to study for the ASCP, maybe something that can help you, because we're all consumed with work, personal life, so much things. So it's like, if you never heard these terms before, if histology is new to you, everyone doesn't have a biology background, and like I
Right.
didn't. So it's like, if you're new into this, it's good that we have this type of platform, because we can be able to share our experiences, and like someone like, you know what, I can relate. That's the
Yep.
goal. Like I can
Yep.
relate.
When I first saw your channel talking about prep for the exam, pop quiz, test questions. I was like, wow. I was like somebody who's actually going on here and being like, hey, everyone else is like, here's a Bach book, right? Here's your
Right.
VOC book. Just sit down and stare at your
A
VOC
Bach
book.
book.
Yeah, just
I
stare
like
at your
that.
Bach book until
Here's a
your
Bach
eyes
book.
bleed. That's how you prep for the exam.
Right.
And it's just it was rough. It was rough. And so to see somebody who's actually putting stuff out, who's like, hey, the ASCP exam, it's hard. It gives a lot of us a lot of trouble. So here's some ways that you can better prepare for it. And again, there's not a lot of us, so there's no reason not to all help each other out and help bolster the industry a little bit. I was watching one of your old videos, and was it Josh? Josh.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. So Josh made a comment about New York actually, and he said, something about there was a study this year where there was New York said only 9 histotechs applied for licenses.
Yeah,
statewide.
I remember he told me that.
Statewide. And I'm pretty sure that was the year that I graduated, because there was 9 in my graduating
You was
class.
number
So
9.
I might have been one of those he was talking about.
I remember, because I was like 9. He was like, yeah, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, there was like the class after my class was like 7. Wow. And they're not all going to go on to histology, and they're not all going to stay in New York either.
That's what I was thinking too, because I mean, New York is pretty big. So I mean, how many histology schools do you say? Like maybe 2 or 3? What, 2? Well, that's how Florida is. Florida has Kaiser, and where I went to, and then maybe a couple. Maybe there's maybe a couple schools online or something. But when the program, that's always like the thing. When the program has like so many students, and then there's like only like maybe a few jobs, like you're really in like competition with your fellow classmates and trying to get a job. That's why I always recommend traveling. If you can travel, if you have some experience, or maybe sometimes they'll take you without experience, but
just get that exposure and get that networking.
Yeah. Networking is really important.
Yeah. Another benefit to social media.
What is this? Calcified thyroid tissue versus fat.
So like, which is harder?
Yeah. I'm assuming, yeah. Which one, or is that what you're asking, Yosef? Which is harder to cut? I don't know.
I mean, calcified is rough, right? Like there's not
calcified is rough.
There's not much you can do about that. That's just going to scratch your sections, and you just
if it's a paraffin block, then of course you decal it. But it depends, because you can't decal breast blocks. But
right. As far as I can speak to fat, I mean, fat is just it wants to be cold. It wants to be, and cryo spray is not enough. You got to use liquid nitrogen on fat, directly on fat.
What is cryo spray? I don't even use that anymore. What is that?
Just regular. I mean, it looks like
no, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I have like a fatty muscle, I actually have to put it in the freezer and then put it in there and put it back in, and I have to cut up the microns and put it back in there and put it back.
Because when it's that in that close proximity to muscle, it's like, once you start getting good at this, you start to know this stuff. Connective tissue and muscle will chatter if you get liquid nitrogen anywhere near it.
Ooh,
like, I'm trying to get that fat cold, and I'm trying to, so you're like freezing this side, and then you're using your thumb to warm up that side so that you get a clean section that's not, shredded.
Do you use the roll plate?
I love the roll plate.
I hate the roll plate. The roll plate is my enemy, but I have to use it. But the roll plate is my enemy.
I'm gonna make a video just for you on how to
use it. Because turning that little knob and like turn it. If you turn it right, then that means it's really like pulling it back, or it's just like me trying to like. The roll plate is my enemy. I'm so sorry, but I have to use it. But once I get it,
once you get it, it's good, and then you change your blade, and it's gone.
It's gone. So you have to back up a little bit, and then
I know.
The roll plate's my enemy. Dang, please make a video. Okay, that's for me. Make a video for me with that roll plate, and I want you to have a tiny piece of tissue too, not a big one. I want a tiny piece.
All right, I'll cut off a little tip or something.
Okay,
try to make that like muscle biopsy mimic or whatever.
Yeah, do that, please. Jelly Me Uber, hi. Hey. So yeah, he was saying, that's what he was talking about as far as like which one's harder.
I'm gonna say I'm biased just because I know how to cut fat now in
Hmm.
Mohs, and like I said, with calcifications in tissue, there's just nothing you can do about that. Literally nothing. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's nothing.
there's some stuff you can't surface decal, and even surface decal sometimes does not touch those little microcalcs, and it looks like your section was put through a cheese grater when you're cutting calcs.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
rough.
It's
Oh
horrible,
yeah,
actually.
it
Yeah,
is.
it's
It
actually
is. No
horrible.
amount of warm or cold changes it.
Yeah. So what do you think as far as like frozen sections, would you ever work like in at a hospital like in a frozen section room where there's like a few of you guys and like the surgeries like are all day, or have you done that?
Yeah, particularly with traveling, my doc likes to space it out a little bit. He's got a
Mhm.
pretty good routine with like, does a surgery, does repair, whatever. Um, in the traveling jobs I've done so far, there's some clinics where there's one down in Maryland where they do 14 surgeries a day and they don't
Wow.
stop. They start at 8, you finish at 2:30. The doctor doesn't take a lunch break. I'm pretty sure he's on some kind of drugs or Red Bull because he is just go, 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 go. I mean, the man is a machine. He brings it out. It's positive. It's stage 2. Here's a stage 3. I had my record was I had like 22 blocks in the cryostat at one point, and I was just like,
Wow.
and all Mohs, not for it's you have to go a lot slower when it's Mohs.
Oh,
Um,
wait a minute. So you be switching back and forth between the Mo's and the Frozens in the cryostat, or well,
no,
no.
no, just
Okay.
those are all Mohs cases. He just
Let me
does.
ask you a question. Whenever you have to keep all of them separated, do you write like a number on top of it? Because that's what we used to do, like write
I'll
get like
write.
a marker and write, you know, because
I'll
how do
mark.
you keep them separated?
I'll mark the position on the chuck. So if I need to put it back in for recuts, I can put it in
Right.
the exact same spot so it's faced. And I'll write I'll write the case number like on
Okay,
the
that's what
side.
I said. If it's
It's a
multiple
Sharpie.
patients.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right. He said, how about the R put IAC on frozen tissue spamming Thor Nomad? I guess he basically saying he asking a lot of questions. It's fine. Bring
I
on the
see on
questions,
frozen
you
tissue.
guys. He's spamming you.
So the IHC on frozen tissue is pretty cool stuff. We just started doing that. That was something that um, a lot of people assume that a lot of docs and a lot of clinics assume you can't do unless you've
I
got
do
a
it.
big $60,000 machine the size of a
Mm-mm.
dishwasher. You can do IHC by hand.
I do it by
Yep.
hand every day.
Yep.
Trust me. I
Yep. And
do I
so,
do muscle enzymes and I do IACs by hand.
yep. And
Mhm.
so I did a little bit of research and again, this is the difference between somebody who's trained in MOHS and a histotech. Histotechs, we went to school for this stuff, right?
Mhm.
So we know that, I told my doc, I was like, hey, can we do MOHS for melanomas? He's like, there's no way to read melanocytes under an H&E. And I
Mhm.
said, we can do MART1. What if we can do
Oh.
MART1 on MOHS or SOX10? And he's like, no, that's, how hard would that be or how long would it take? So I did research. There's rapid kits out there. And because, if you're in histology, when you process tissue, you
Mhm.
smash the epitopes. And
Right.
so we have to do an epitope retrieval step, which is like, half hour, 45 minutes on the bond, incubated, all that. Our tissue's
Mhm.
fresh. There's no epitope retrieval. So you skip a whole step right there.
Yeah.
Now you're just down to the antibodies, the incubation, the chromogen, and your counterstain.
Your
So
DAB. Yeah.
yep. So I created a procedure along with, I'll plug them, what the hell, Novodiax. Novodiax is an awesome company for these rapid IHC kits. And so we do SOX10, we do pan-cytokeratin cocktail. It's like 5 cytokeratin antibodies. And
Mhm.
we do EpCAM for basal cell. And I can do one in about 15 minutes. So,
Wow,
we're
that's
not really extending the procedure for the patient. And we can do Mohs on melanomas, which is huge.
oh,
It's
that
huge.
is
No,
huge.
we don't have to do, melanomas were always these huge margins. So you have this defect, a poor patient that's that big.
Right.
And now we can do it. He can go down to 4 millimeter, 0.5 centimeter margins instead. And we save so much of the patient's face and you get rid of a very, very deadly cancer
That's
because I can
cool.
stain it with SOX10 and you can, yeah. So it's great. And again, we started doing it last year. We're doing about 20 or 30 a year. It's not frequent. And hopefully there's a ASMS conference, the American Society for Mohs Surgeons conference
Mhm.
will be in June. And if I'm lucky, I might get invited down to speak on that. So
Oh, that's cool.
that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be in
Yeah,
Orlando.
definitely let me know if you are, speaking, because I'm definitely will shout you out on social media and encourage everyone to go. You know what city or state is going to be in?
Orlando. Orlando. Oh, they think I don't want to speak too soon on it.
Yeah,
The
but
director.
maybe Orlando.
Again, all that networking, right? The director found me on Instagram after my surgeon went to a different conference and spoke to him, and he was already following me on Instagram, and he goes, "Wait, are you Dane?" And I said,
Right.
"Yeah." And he's like, "That's not a normal name. Are you like, are you this Dane?" And I'm like, "I'm that Dane." And he's
That
like,
I'm
"Oh,
the
okay."
one and only.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
think
"We need to
that's
get
cool.
together." I said, "Okay, all right."
Yeah, I think this definitely like I don't know. It's one of the things like I don't really think that it's kind of still shocking that people know me and they're like, oh yeah, like I watch him like, or my program director at my school told me to watch him. Like they did, like oh they
That's
recommended my
cool.
videos. I'm like they did, like so
That's
like yeah, I
cool.
think
Hey,
you're gonna get a lot of exposure.
I'm getting Cobleskill. I've been asked back to Cobleskill to teach Frozen's coming up here in a few months. So I'll be sure to plug your channel when I go down there
Oh,
too.
thank you.
These kids are gonna need help with because they're getting to that point where they're going to be coming up on clinicals, and then it's exam time, and that's going to be
Hmm.
scary. So
Yeah,
every
it's definitely gonna
resource
be
counts.
scary. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah,
We're all just helping each other. Like
yeah, that's what we need to do because there's not that many of us. Okay. Ward says histology trivia question. The term coined to denote the study of tissues first appeared in a book by Carl Mayer in what year? Well, if
he's
it's
just
before I was born, I don't know.
he's
Ward.
just got Wikipedia in front of him. He's just doing it. He's gonna make me Google
Dang, you
this.
know the answer?
No, I do not. I do not.
Ward,
It's probably
are you a histotech or a MOHS tech? Or is that
it's
your
probably
brother?
like it's probably the 1600s or something.
1600s.
I don't know. It's gonna be something like that. I would. I know where Mohs came from. It was a procedure developed by Frederick Mohs, and oh
Frederick
man,
Mohs.
yeah, Frederick Mohs. That was the guy's name.
I
And then
only
he
know.
turned his name
How
into
does
an
he even
act.
look? I even never looked him up.
Yeah, he started with bone paste. He was using bone paste on skin cancers, and then they
Bone paste.
evolved the. Yeah, it's very interesting. I did when I taught. I did a little bit of background on Frederick Mohs, and I was like, look, it was really weird back then. Okay, like it's a much more refined procedure now. That's all you need to
Yeah,
know.
that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
So if you could before we go, if you
Yep.
guys got any other questions before for Dane, let me know so we can get all your questions answered. But if you could give my audience any piece of advice as far as getting into this career field or something that you wish you've known before you got into Mo's or got into your career field, like what piece of advice would my audience want to take away from this live?
Um, Again, Moses, it's a hyper focused field of histology. It's only frozen sections, and it's damn good frozen sections. So you got to know what you're doing. And if you want to train to do it, it's going to make you that much better of a tech, in my opinion. So go, like we just got done saying, when we first started doing this, there were no resources. We were just
Right.
trying to figure stuff out. Now, tons of resources. Obviously you're following Shan, follow me,
Yeah.
find people that are following us and that we are following. We're
Hmm.
all linked together. We're a small community, but we're all talking.
Yep.
And plug yourself in, and we're all going to help each other out. If you
Yep.
find somebody who's being stingy, walk away from them,
Walk
because most
away.
people are not.
Yeah, it's one
You
of
want
those
to
things
stay away from
where
there.
you want to be that person, to share the knowledge. That's definitely, share whatever you can. You don't have to be someone who's been in the field for 25 years. That's great. But, whatever you may learn and you think it'd be beneficial for, someone, share it.
It just hurts the industry. There is like 5 times the amount of need in this country than there are techs right now. But techs are just not graduating at the rate that they are needed. So
No.
nobody is stealing work from anybody else. There is no reason to not help each other out and just get better at this. The only people that get hurt by poor lab practice is patients.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. And you're right. Like I really there is a lot of shortage in the lab, and we're constantly filling spots, and
I
sometimes
wish.
lab techs they become histotechs, and then they're new and they're still having to learn, and we're constantly trying to fill some type of spot or shortage. But whether it's traveling, or whether it's you being a tech, or you being MOHS, or you being like on like the vendor side, there's so many different avenues that you can go. Teaching, that's why I
Yep.
was happy to interview Josh as well, because he has like a whole website
Saw
where you
that.
can
Yeah.
go. Yeah. Where you can go and actually like get information, get CEUs. So oh, War says the National Society for Histotechnology is located in which state?
Oh, where's the NSH based out of?
Florida.
Is
No,
it Florida?
I want to say Florida. NSH, I
I
want to
know
say
where the last few conferences have been, but I can't,
my
I don't
home
know.
state, Florida. I'm a Floridian, so I'm gonna go Florida for 200, Alex.
I'm gonna pass.
I'm gonna pass.
I'm gonna pass. Yeah, that and kind of what I said earlier. If you're a new student and you're coming into histology, um, this is everybody's preference, but I would say find a small lab.
Yeah,
Find a small lab. Try to steer clear. If you want to go to a big one and get some exposure, that's fine. And don't stay in the same place. Don't
yeah.
stay in the same place for 20 years. You got it. It's not healthy for you, and
Hmm.
you get a pay raise every time you move. It's statistics. Look it up. You can Google
Right,
that. Jump around. Stay at a place 3 to 5 years. Don't quit after 6 months. That doesn't look
right.
good. But if you've been at a place for 4, 5, 6 years, move on.
Yeah.
Move on. Get yourself in a different environment with different techs who know different things.
Mm,
If you got a bad practice that you're doing, you don't want to be doing that bad practice for 20
I
years.
know you don't want to
You know?
take that bad habit or practice to a new lab.
Yep.
Um, you
Yeah.
definitely want to
Practice
make
doesn't
sure.
make perfect. Practice makes permanent. You know.
Ooh, good one. I like your analogies. Would you say something about the toolbox?
Yeah, just
Put
put
the
tools in
tool,
the tool.
put
Learning new things. Put tools in the toolbox.
put tools in the toolbox. I'm gonna steal that from you. That's now I'm gonna steal that from you.
Patent
Put tools
pending.
in the toolbox. That's my thing now. I'm gonna start saying that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely. I agree with
Yeah.
Dane. Like you wanna, not saying like quit every second that you get, but if you are somewhere where work morale is low, or it's toxic, or you're not enjoying what you do anymore, or there's no room for career advancement. And not saying everyone wants to advance. Some people like just in bed and cutting. But
Yeah.
for those who want to grow and do more, and just see where this field can take you, you definitely want to make sure that you got options.
Histology is a glass ceiling. It's there's no chief supervisor of pathology techs. There's
Right.
no high level positions of once you become a tech, you're a tech. So the
Right.
only way that you can grow and make yourself more valuable is to get better at your craft and
Hmm.
learn other aspects, right? Mohs is lateral, it's over here. Neurology and muscle biopsies are lateral, it's over here.
Hmm.
Spread out, make yourself valuable by learning all of these things. And now wherever you go, you're a Swiss Army knife. You can be whatever that lab needs you to be.
Yep.
Because we can't go up. You can become, chief lab tech one or whatever, but
Right. Yeah, and it's this thing too. They say, I always get the question, "Oh, what's the difference between will a histologist get paid more than histotechnician?" And I always tell them, no, that I don't really think that makes a difference, because I'm pretty sure as a histotech, I have an associate's degree. That doesn't mean that someone with a bachelor's degree is going to make more than me when I have the
no,
experience that I have. So it's all about what you know and your experience, and how valuable that you're going to be to the lab. Because
yeah.
if someone's a histotechnologist, they got the HTL, that's great, but I'm not going to let it intimidate me, because I'm still going to ask for what I want to ask for.
It's all about bench skills. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people with very high levels of education, they got shaky hands and they can't cut, they can't
Not
do this,
shaking.
they can't remember the steps they got to bust out that special step. I'm like, it's a PAS, it's 2 steps. Come on.
Look, if it's all laughing, is because you're absolutely right. I mean, it be people who like or have been techs way longer than me, and they do be having shaking hands. And not only that, but they be making most of the especially like mistakes like just like mislabeling and like just like little
Yeah,
minute things, patient care time. I'm thinking like, if you don't get
yeah,
on point,
yeah. That's important. Yeah, that's
patient
yeah.
care. Oh, speaking of patient care, and then we're gonna wrap it up because I don't want to keep
Okay.
you for too long. But um quality and patient care, like, as far as Mo's, I know you like, how is like patient care, like as far as like quality QCing and stuff like that? Like, I know you say you're in charge like of the logs and stuff like that. So how does patient care play a important role, as a Mo's tech?
In terms of the procedure itself,
Mm-hmm.
so if you look into this, my surgeon explains this really well, and this is another reason I love Mo's because you like to feel like you're making a difference and you're actually helping people out. I know it's hard because we just get cut in blocks and we get focused in what we're doing, but we are helping people. I know they're
Mm-hmm.
on the other end of some other office somewhere, but we are helping people. Um, when you get a skin specimen that's got skin cancer in it, the pathologist is going to bread loaf it. They're going to flip it on its side, like 4 pieces, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to cut three layers into that.
Right.
And statistics show that with that frozen section, you're seeing like I think it's less than 4% of the margin.
Oh
You're not
wow.
you're
You're
so
not
it's
seeing
a
the full thing.
statistical. Yeah, so it's a statistic. They're saying that with that 4% that they can see, they're 70% confident that they got the cancer. So you go home, did they get all the skin cancer?
We don't know.
Within some margin, maybe. Mohs is 99.99% because of how we do it. We lay down the outer edges of the margin and the entire deep margin, and we cut perfect or near perfect sections that dermatologist can read, and he can say with 99.99% certainty, there's no cancer there. I'm not seeing a fraction of it. I'm not
Right.
seeing a little bit in the middle. I'm not seeing some depth of layer that the tech may or may not have cut into, depending on how they were feeling that day.
Right.
I am seeing the whole
The
margin.
whole thing.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so the recurrence rate in Mohs is very low,
Yeah.
very, very low. And
Right.
that feels really good when you can tell the patient that and they can go home. They've been, had this basal cell for 3,
Years.
4 years.
I've
Yeah.
seen people who's had it like I mean, like they're like old and they be like, I've had this on my nose for, 20 years and they're finally
Yeah.
getting it
Yeah.
removed. Yeah.
Non-healing wound. Yeah. If you got something that's not healing, go to the dermatologist.
Yeah.
Stuff's supposed to heal.
Yeah. That's true. And
Yep.
as far as like, do you recommend like when you tell your whoever that you meet, like I do Mo's, where you in the beginning, did you have to explain like what you do, or like to family or friends or anyone who really didn't understand what you did, like what is that?
Right. Well, that's all of histology, right?
Hmm.
They're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And some people just stop right there, right? Or they'll be like, well, what's Mohs? And I was like, well, it's micrographic surgery for skin cancer. And if they don't want to, and if you lost them right there, they'll be like, oh, cool.
Oh,
And
okay, that's it.
but then if they want to know more, then I'm not going to sit here and like CrossFit them to death and be like, oh, come here, let me show you some
Not
video.
CrossFit.
If they want to know more, I'll tell them more. But for the most part, like it's like everything we do in histology. They're like, what do you guys do? Like, man, not even the people in main lab know what we do. They
I
know we're just
know.
down here. They see us with slides a lot, and that's it. Like,
And they walk over and be like, "Oh my god, what do you guys do over here?" It'd be like a sessioning, like, "What do you guys do?" Or like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Oh, I'm doing this." And then next thing you know, I have like a group of people surrounding me, asking
yeah,
me, and they're like intrigued. I'm like, "Yeah."
I've
And
had I've had phlebotomists who worked there for like 6 years who just happen to be walking by, and then I'm at the microtome, and they stop and they look over my shoulder and go, "Oh, that's cool." I'm
uh-huh.
like, "You've been here for 6 years. You been walking around. That's the first time you've seen somebody doing this."
They're
Oh
like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's cool." You like, "Run, don't do it." Now
yeah, yeah. Is that a blade? Yeah, that's a
yeah,
blade. Is
that's a
it sharp?
blade.
It better be sharp.
It
Yeah,
better be. Right. And you had this
true.
and then you start thinking like, then I'm teaching them like, yeah, so what I do is I put this in the chuck, and then I do this, and then what I'm about to do here, what I'm about to do here, and then it's like, okay, like I just taught you everything. You about to go back to your department.
Yeah, yep. And just wash it. Yeah. When I was talking about H&Es, somebody was like, I think I had a patient. Sometimes the patients want to come in the MOHS lab while I'm
Really?
processing. Sometimes I get a patient who was in the medical field and they're very interested. And one guy was asking me, he's like, how does the purple stain know to stain something different from the pink stain? And I was like, a great question. And
Great.
I talking about charged tissue and all that stuff. But the way that he asked it was kind of, I had to chuckle a little bit. I was like, he doesn't know the difference, but okay, yeah.
Well, Dane, I really appreciate. Oh, never mind. We got more comments.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
All right, let's see. Hold on.
Still doesn't stop.
Oh, we got the answer.
Ward, you're cut off. 1840. I knew it was going to be like
That's.
not even in the
I'm
center.
sorry, War, but we wasn't born yet. We're on 1814. Did you know it was 18 something though? 18th century.
I said 1600s.
You said
I had
1600.
no idea.
So what was? Hold on. So what was the what's the answer to this though? The
Yeah,
National Society is located in which state? I'm thinking it's Florida.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's Florida for some
I'll
reason.
go with that. I'll
Yeah.
I'll be able to answer this before he does.
Yeah, I think it's Florida. Oh, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What other states have you lived in as far as like done histology or done MOHS? Only New York?
Only New York. Yep. So this is my first job right out of school. I've been doing this for. I've been in you know, like ASCP credentialed, I guess, for 4 years. I've been doing most
Right.
3 years.
Are you a New Yorker? You like
Yep.
born here?
Yep.
Okay.
Upstate. Yep.
East Coast. I miss the East Coast, by the way. I'm an East Coast girl.
You wouldn't miss it right now. It's a little rainy.
No, because it's cold.
It was founded in Silver Spring, Maryland. Does that count?
Maryland.
I don't know if that's where it is now.
The
yeah,
National
no.
Society of Histotechnology located.
It's in Ellicott City, Maryland. I did a travel.
You know where
job
that's
in
at?
Ellicott City, next to Columbia. I love it there. I
Oh,
didn't know the NSH was there.
I didn't know either. I thought it was Florida for some reason.
All right, Ward, you're forgiven because you taught us something today.
See, he was right. He was right. We was giving him a hard time.
Yeah.
So, where can we find you on Instagram? Or you have any other social medias you want to plug?
Nope, just that one. MOHS_nomad.
Okay. And what exactly will you be showing us on your Instagram?
I try to put out like at least one video a week, but a lot of it is just like, hey, look at this pretty slide I did, or oh, I love this nose specimen today, like post it to my story. But I started this series called Let's Talk, and that's where I'm getting most of my feedback on, and each one is a topic about MOHS. So it's like, let's talk how to deal with cartilage. Let's talk taming the fat. Let's talk, the slide technique versus regular embedding technique. Let's talk. So I've been trying to make these Let's Talks that covers a different aspect of doing MOHS that I found to be difficult when these are the things that I tripped over when I was first starting. You know, I'm getting thick and thin. Why am I getting thick and thin? I spent weeks going, why is it doing thick and thin? And then
what was the reason?
I
call how you're freezing it?
I call it hanging block. There's not a name for it. I'm literally making up names.
You making stuff up?
Yeah, it's such a.
So what? But wait a minute. Tell
content,
me then. What is hanging block? What is
hanging block? Is when you make the chuck and there's no OCT underneath, so there's a gap, and that gap makes it like a seesaw. So every time it hits the blade, it's tipping. So you get a thick part at the bottom, thin at the top, and then thin at the bottom, thick at the top, and it just keeps doing this. So you got to build your block up, basically. So I made a video about it because if I wanted, I needed to know this. Somebody else is going to want to know this. So
that's true. And as far as your content, are you going to maybe start a YouTube channel, or are you just going to only stick to?
I don't know. I might start a YouTube channel. You make it look easy, so maybe it'll be a disaster. I don't know.
A beautiful disaster. That's what it is. Disaster. Okay. Jelly Meat Uber says, I got hired for pathology office assistant at Moffitt, but I also seen a job posting for lab assistant at Quest. I want to have a career in histology. Do you think I guess he's saying, do you think you should go for the lab job?
So I mean, I would say, yeah, why not? You'll get the exposure. Too. Yeah. No matter what you want to chase in histology, get exposure in the lab. Any aspect of the lab, because that's you'll still get exposure to pathology at some point, because there are parts that link together and we all crosstalk to each other and stuff like that. But if you can get near a pathology lab, And even if you're working in blood bank or something like that, you can go hang out in the pathology lab and watch them do stuff and figure out if that's something that you do actually want to do. I mean,
Right.
very important. Like, make sure you're going to like it before you go chasing it as a career path. But
Right.
yeah.
So he's saying that so what is he saying? He got hired for is it a PA or just pathology office? What is a pathology office assistant? A PA?
Is that someone doing accessioning maybe?
Yeah,
Might be
maybe
talking about
accessioning. Are you gonna be grossing? I also seen a job for lab assistant at Quest. I want to have a career in histology. Okay, so basically, I'm just piggyback off of Dane. If you want a career in histology, it's just say if you want to be a histotech. I've trained a couple of lab techs and now they're histotechs. And then, so I would definitely say get a job as a lab assistant, but that may not be a guarantee that you're going to move into histology unless they have an opening or something like that, unless you apply for another job as a histologist. But I guess it depends on what are your duties for a PA. So if you're going to be accessioning, then either one can probably get your foot in the door, but a lab assistant, you actually, because normally when you're accessioning and doing stuff like that, you're not doing it in the actual histology lab, especially if it's a big place,
If it's
right?
a bigger place, right?
Yeah, you're probably separate. And you don't really know the ins and outs, like when it's when it's processing and filing blocks, sending out slides to the doctor, um, stuff, everyday lab tech stuff, right? So if you don't have that type of environment that you're in, then you probably won't even get to be around histologists. And normally lab techs, they'll make their way to your desk and they'll be like, that's cool, like Dane was saying. And they show interest to the histology supervisor or the lead or whatever. And then you probably have an opportunity, of course, to apply for a histology job or become a histotech. That's more in-house and you probably got a better chance. But I don't want to tell you that you can't have a better chance, but it depends on what you're going to do in the pathology office assistant. It depends on what you're going to do. If you're grossing,
it sounds like lab assistant's going to get her closer to the lab than office.
You will.
So I would say, yeah.
At what point you have to bisection a tissue on MOHS?
Bisect. This is a doctor preference. And some places the tech will do it. I had a Mohs surgeon who would bisect it for me. He would bring it to me in two pieces because I think he didn't trust Mohs techs to be able to do it in one piece. If you guys follow my channel, I say on there a lot, I don't like bisecting. You will see me cutting massive tissues of skin. And in my opinion, bisecting adds more error because now you're pushing a scalpel right through the lesion and you're separating your true margin. So if you can put it down in one, I put it down in one. The only time you'll see me bisect is if it won't fit on a slide. And I have made some crazy stuff fit on a slide. There's a technique called Pac-Man where they teach at Beck where they tell you to cut halfway through. So you half bisect the specimen and you make like a little Pac-Man with like an open mouth. And that's supposed to make it easier for cutting because you get a better bite on the blade. Same thing. I don't like doing that. I think if you're good enough, you shouldn't even have to do that. So
basically you put, I've never even heard these terms. So you just put you would rather just put the whole specimen on the chuck the way it is. Because like you said, you don't bread loaf or anything.
Nope. Okay. The only cutting we do is I will cut notches in the four corner, like the clock faces.
Right.
Just so, because it's like trying to lay down a pie tin, right? It's got edges that are sitting up and those edges need to be down.
Right.
Because that's what we need to see. If there's missing epithelium, I got to tilt into the block until I get that epithelium. The doctor doesn't know that he's seeing the full margin until he can see epithelium all the way around. So I'm not doing my job if I'm not giving him full epithelium. And that can be tough. Relaxing the tissue is one of the tougher parts of Mohs for sure.
It is relaxing the tissue. Oh my God, you jogging my memory.
You forgot all this stuff. Yeah, see,
I forgot it. Did you got why I never knew the name of that thing until like later? The heat extractor. You use that thing, the little thing that comes around and.
I use it for frozens. Since doing Mohs, I've started using a cryo embedder, which is basically.
I know the cryo embedder.
Yep.
Okay.
2 heat extractors that sandwich together. basically.
Okay, but the heat extract, the cryo embedder, is it like this long block thing or something? How does
Yeah,
that look? I'm trying to remember.
it's just like two pieces of metal, and it's got like little metal posts, and they just link together, and your specimen
Oh,
goes
and then
in
you
there,
spray it. Do you then you spray
and then
the?
you spray the hell out. Yeah, it's all steel,
Okay,
so it's
I
called
remember. It's
cryo
something.
or yeah, heat extractor is just a big hunk of metal. It's a big hunk of cold metal that you set on the chuck, and it's supposed to
Yeah,
make the OCT faster.
yeah. But I do know the what is it called? Cryon better? What is
Crown
that?
Better. I think Crown Better is just a brand name, but I think
Let
there's a
me
couple
let
different
me see what that looked like
brands
again.
out
But you
there.
you described it, and I remember cryo and better. I just want to see if I can remember what it looks like.
It just makes it makes it faster to face it because now your chuck is level to the blade instead
Right,
of having to trim. In MOHS, you do as little trimming as possible. You don't want to burn that margin. That's clean
I
margin.
remember it. I got it.
Yep.
Okay, and we used to put it. Yep, and then we used to spray it. We used to spray it with the freeze spray.
The fruit spray. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's been forever. Thank you.
I'm gonna talk to you in a couple months. You're gonna be like, I went back to MOHS after talking to you. Like, I miss it.
I'm not. They were like, Shanika, what you doing here? You don't know what you're doing. I'm like, I sure don't. Like, I need a trainer because I have no. I need forget the 2 days. I need 2 months. I don't know what I'm doing.
I spent 2 months training my casual, and she just now like felt like comfortable to go out to go do it on her own.
But what
But
type? But because you are from the military, what type of trainer are you? You like a like Are you like Shanika? Give me 10, or
no,
drop.
no, no, no. We
Are you patient? Are you
yeah,
patient?
very yeah.
Okay, good.
We the military makes some of the best teachers. Honestly, we from very young age and early on in our career, they'll like you get promoted to sergeant. You might be like 22 years old. They're like, congratulations, you're a sergeant. You're a leader now.
You like,
Um,
huh?
I want you to go teach a class on X, Y, and Z on Wednesday, and today's Monday. And you go home and go, oh, you're Googling and you're like trying to figure out how to do a PowerPoint. And you're trying to figure out how to teach it. And then they just do this to you for years and years and years until you get comfortable speaking in front of people, using a lot of metaphors,
Hmm.
and just you learn how people's minds work with learning, and
Hmm.
you just start tailoring that to what the you bump into a person and you go, okay, just talking to you for 5 seconds, I know what your best way of learning is, so I'm gonna teach
Oh. Well, fun fact, my boss, where I did Mo's, he was actually in the military.
that. Okay.
So that was my boss who actually I worked at his derm lab, and he told me that how he got into dermatology is because he used to like I guess like cut people, do something with some toenails. I don't know. He used to tell me like these crazy stories. But my work ethic, honestly, is because of him, because he was in the military. And I
Yeah.
think even though like sometimes I used to be like, oh my God, he was crazy. Like he was like crazy. He ran, but he ran like a couple like dermatology offices, like the first to open up like an in-house like derm lab in Florida. And I'm just like, he is crazy.
Yeah,
But
he's a
he
machine.
ran a tight ship.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And he actually like allowed me to, I don't know, like I guess once I learned everything, he allowed me to take that lead and to take that role and trusted everything, that I could do. And actually it
Yep.
really taught me a lot. So because of him, even though I sometimes was like, oh my God, he was like crazy, but the work ethic is insane.
Yeah,
And because of
because
that,
once you got it, he's like, I'm gonna give you that autonomy because you earned it. Like
right.
you know, I trust. I'm not gonna stand over your shoulder. I trust you to do it right.
Yeah, he gave me a lot of like responsibility, and even sometimes I was like, but I mean, he's running like a couple offices, and he has medical assistants, and he's doing Mo's, and he's like having to do these things, and then he's running a lab, and then I'm just like, but
Keep doing
he's
this.
yeah, that's why I got the work ethic that I got. So, and he
Yep.
was a military
Well, and
guy.
the skills too. Like we said, you were like, man, that was crazy, and then you walk away from that place and you work somewhere else,
I
and
know.
you look at these other techs and you go,
I'm like, what's
you
that?
don't know how to do this.
You know what? Whenever I was leaving, he told me, he said, Shanika, he was like, anyone else is gonna be so good, so I guess lucky to have you. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. But then when I get and I work around these other people, I'm like, y'all have no clue what I done like, suck
Yep.
it up, buttercup.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
how you like that one, don't you?
Put
Put some tools in your toolbox.
the little box. Suck it up.
uh, Joseph said, "What do you mean about burning a margin?"
Burning margin. When the doctor cuts out the cancer, he's cutting it out with a margin that we expect is clean. And so when I put the tissue in the chuck and I start facing into it, when you're doing frozens, you're trying to get into that tissue. So you're just
Mhm,
like whipping. You're cutting away because we want a snapshot of inside of that bread loaf.
mhm.
Moses is the opposite. We do not want to trim that tissue because that margin that you laid down in that deep margin, that might be cancer free.
Oh,
At some point, if I keep cutting into the specimen, I'm going to hit cancer. He removed cancer. He removed a basal cell from this person. So somewhere in that block is basal cell. If I cut
mm,
too far into it, it's going to show up as basal cell. Now that's a false positive. He took a
oh.
clean margin and I cut through it. That's on me. So that's why in MOHS I do what's called the true margin. I don't trim that block at all. As soon as I see ink, I take the first section that comes off of that thing.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's called like on Faust. I don't know. I
On
can't remember.
FOSS.
Faust, yeah,
In
okay. Because
FOSS.
I
Yep.
had this one pathologist. Every time he only wanted 2 slides. Period. That specimen would come in. He'd be like, he'll use that turn. I'm like, thank you. That's good for me because and
Yep.
I'll do it. That means like, do not go deep. Boom. You want to get the first section. So I know exactly what
Exactly.
you're talking about.
And
Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
other challenge in MOHS because anybody will tell you the further you cut into a tissue, the smoother it'll get and the easier it gets to cut. It's hard to take that first section before you've done any facing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we
It
face
is.
because it gives us, something more structure and easier to work with. So try doing it without facing. It's a challenge.
It is a
It's a challenge.
challenge. Yeah, that is true. So basically everything does need to literally be like,
Perfect.
all the edges need to be down. That's why
Yep.
that's
Yours has
important.
got to be down. The chuck that you built needs to be perfect. There can't be stuff hanging off or, every
I
little step in the
know.
process, you got to pay attention to what you're doing.
Damn. Good information, Dane. I appreciate that. You taking
Yeah.
me down memory lane, and I didn't even know it. Like I was super excited to talk to you. And I'm once again like I'm so appreciative. You guys, please be sure to follow Dane on his Instagram, and that's at Mo's Nomad. We're going to wrap it up if you guys don't have any other questions for Dane or from myself. But Dane, I really want to take the time to say thank you for making my last show this season, the best because I really appreciate you guys, all you guys who've been on my show. But thank you so much for reaching out to me and, being a part of Tech Talk. And I was definitely excited that I got someone from Mo's because, I mean, everyone can't talk to a MOHS Tech, and
Yeah.
like
It's
I
such
think
a
it's
blank
so
space in
cool.
pathology. Nobody knows about it. Yeah.
I
No, I
know.
I, I love it. I'm glad I got to come on. Season finale.
Season
Awesome.
finale, baby. You see those
Yeah.
balloons? I went to Party City
I
yesterday.
saw some balloons. I was like, is it your birthday?
Yeah,
All right.
I was thinking like I don't want to make it too girly, but you know what?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's my season finale. I'm appreciative of you guys in the community, and I love the fact that I'm networking with you and anyone else who's been on my show.
hmm
I'm so thankful that I have a platform for this, and I'm so thankful there's other people who are actually making content as
Who
well.
are passionate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Finding passionate people. I love it. I love
I
it.
love it too. And at the end of the day, like it's good just to sit down. After work, sometimes you don't want to talk about work, but I think it's really good because there's so many people who don't know about histology and we don't get paid extra to do what we're doing right now. So it's like,
I
but
have
I think
received no money from the Lab Girl Circle,
me,
for the record. I have
I did
received
not
no
pay him.
sponsorship. Nova Diax doesn't pay me, right? I don't get any money from Avantic, right? Like
Yep.
Instagram, like I don't know how many followers you need on Instagram to make money, but I ain't there. So
I ain't there either. And
we
look,
are
I'm not
doing this
paying.
because we want to, because
We
we
want to
love
do
this.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't pay Dane to come on my show. Okay. But I really want to say thank you for making, the Lab Girl Tech Talk show, the season finale great. And thank you, Richard. Great show. Thank you so much, guys. And you know what? You was the perfect guest to end my season finale with. You know that? I wish I
Perfect.
had some hand clap like,
You know
ooh.
what? Yeah, you need a sound bar with like applause
Yeah.
and
But
people
season
booing
two,
and
when I get a raise, I'm gonna get a sound bar.
there you go. There
Okay.
you
But Dane, thank you again for making my show what it
go.
was today. I really appreciate it. And you guys can follow Dane on Instagram. And if you guys got any questions for me or for Dane later after the show, definitely you can, you know what to do. You know my contact
You can
information.
find
And
us.
Dane,
Yep.
yep, you too. And watch his videos, you guys, and ask him questions if you got questions about MOHS. He's informative. And I really appreciate it. It was a great interview, Dane. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that I now have a new friend in histology.
we're we're up to six or seven. There's so
I,
few of us
I
now.
don't know. It's like now we
Keep
got. I
retiring.
don't know a lot of people, so I guess you're like friend number 6 in histology. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
like number 6. But
Uh,
keep us posted on your what you got going on next. I'm here to plug you, and yeah, we'll keep in contact. I really appreciate it.
yep. Good luck out there, guys, and yeah, just keep learning, keep getting better, keep putting tools in your toolbox.
Put them
That's the
tools in
tagline. Tools in the toolbox.
it. Period. That's my tagline now. Watch. Put tools in. You're gonna be every
Thank
time
you.
you follow me, you go like Shanika, you're crazy.
I
Put
just need
tools in
that
your
little I need that little credit at the bottom every
You
time.
need to make sure that you do a little LLC for that.
I might have to make a YouTube channel now. You're telling
I
me
know.
that
What's gonna be
well,
no Mo's Nomad?
Mo's Nomad. I mean, I do. It's not an LLC, but yeah, so I do have a business. I'll plug myself real quick.
Yeah, plug it.
I do Mo's coverage and I do Mo's tech training. So I will come to if you're interested in learning Mo's or you are a Mo's tech and you're struggling or you need a refresher or you just like how I do things, I will literally come to you. I'll coordinate it and plan it with your clinic and your doc and talk about fee and stuff like that. But I will plan out the training, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whatever. I will come to you. I will do it in your lab on your cryostat.
That's what's up.
And yeah, yep.
So if they want to reach you with that, then they have your contact information, which is
Right on
Instagram.
Instagram. Just
Yep.
DM me on Instagram. Yep.
All
That's the
right.
best way to
Well,
go.
you guys heard it here on the Lab Girls Circle. You guys, want to talk to your boss or anyone to, get some training, or if you want to be trained, he is available. We're good. Thank
Yeah.
you guys for a wonderful show today. I really appreciate you guys. And Dane, thank you so much for joining Tech Talk season
Thanks for
finale.
having
And
me.
I appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, Dane.
Bye.
Bye, guys.